suggest a little exercise that I use myself, lining up with some very important vibrational frequencies to make as your daily affirmation. I am the vibration of God. I am the vibration of my higher self. I am the vibration of peace. I am the vibration of truth. I am the vibration of prosperity. I am the vibration of wellness of being in mind, body, and spirit. Ooh, really feel the energy coming through. So, kakashiri era kokoya akakashiti akokoshiti era kokoya. Inana kokokoshiti era kokokoya kakashiti era kokoya atiya shitiya. Inana kokokoshiti era kokokoya tekisha taka eta kokoya tekita kokoya kakia.
Okay, so welcome to Divine Love Ambassador podcast with your host, Mary Jo Halligan. Today, I have another amazing, wonderful guest that I'd like to introduce you to. And her name, I've been practicing her name and the vibration of the name. And here we go. Annwyn Vibe.
Perfect.
And so, yeah, so thank you for coming. Welcome, Annwyn.
So I know, look, it's tricky because it looks like Anne, you know, and everyone wants to just go Anne, but it's pronounced Annwyn. And we're going to actually do some work right at the end of the session, I believe, around our names and the significance of the vibration of our names. So we've been having a giggle because with Mary Jo's lovely Irish accent, and you know, you look at a word and you think, oh my gosh, and oh God. So, you know, I gave her a little coaching session, but anyway.
You wouldn't be the first person to give me a little coaching session in my pronunciation, so I'm more than welcome to it. But I think it's a fascinating topic, and we are going to go into like vibration in general and the importance of alignment and vibration. So looking forward to a great conversation. But just tapped into your website a little bit more just before we hopped on. And yes, tell us more about Annwyn, the Christ Consciousness Activator, Planetary Activator, and give a little bit more context for those watching of who you were, what you're about, and what's the Christ Conscious Activation about, and the planetary activations.
Okay.
That's all.
Yeah, that's all. You know, that's like, okay, we have an hour. It's taking me 20 years. But really, that's a great question, and I've only just put that new, you know, we do labels, don't we, as humans? So it's not a label, but it's really just an indicator of the work that I do, that I've put on my website now. I thought, really, am I doing here? Because all of us have so many facets and so many strings to what we're about. But to encompass it all, you know, I thought really that's my main thing is activating the Christ consciousness, and it can be through my writings, through my sacred sound work, through the visiting of the sacred sites around the planet. It's in my voice, it's in my field. So the Christ consciousness is the underpinning consciousness of what we would call God, what we call source, what we call creation energy, mother, father, creator, you know, all of those beautiful ways we have of expressing this extraordinary formula that is the basis of everything that we experience on this planet and throughout our particular galaxy and universe, because we're only one of many universes, and we have our energy source of that, and other universes have a different expression of that. So we're talking about our universe, our galaxy, but and particularly about our planet Earth. So what has happened over a long time to the beings of light who originally came to Earth when we first came, you know, zillions of years ago, we came as pure consciousness. We came as pure source energy, as creation energy, and we came here to actually create the planet. And it came. This is a very long answer, isn't it? To one
It's,
question.
it's,
Why?
it's
You would think
beautiful.
why. And so 12 foundational families came, and in different ways. And I've never actually been told how many souls came in each family, but I kind of wonder if it was that 144, and then, you know, times that by 12, you get, you know, that number that keeps cropping up. People say that there were this many souls anyway, so perhaps it relates to that. But so
144,000 angelic families.
something like that, yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it could have come from that, but I do know that there were 12 foundational families of souls, and each one had a particular focus and a particular formula. And the very first family that came, they were setting up the nature, you know, the oceans and the mountains and all of that sort of thing. And we find that people who are very, very involved now about protecting Gaia and restoring Gaia to her natural state, they most likely would have been part of that first family. So it's deeply, deeply, deeply etched within their psyche that that's what they're about. And so
Do you know what
when
the second family was? Because I've been told I'm part of the second family of souls that came through Tabash.
no, no,
Yeah.
I ask him. Yes, ask him. Yes, I actually I did have this. I do have this somewhere, but I just can't pull it out of my memory at the moment. Um, so we all arrived as consciousness. We didn't have form. We weren't physical form. We were light. We were all love. We were just this vibration, these facets and aspects of the God energy, pure source God energy. But then over time, other entities began to arrive on the planet as well, who weren't of the same Christed God consciousness. So there was another influence coming in, you see. And some of us were quite intrigued about this. Okay, well, there's something else for us to experience here. So if we think about the fire being the central Godhead, the source of energy, and we had all been around the fire and never leaving the fire, suddenly we kind of over time drifted away from the fire a bit because we were interested in what was happening over there. And when as we moved away and engaged with these other entities, only, you know, very lightly at first, but even just that, suddenly there was a little tiny degree of separation between us and source energy. And then when we moved further, we actually started to experience ourselves as more individuated. And so we were able to look at each other. We had never done this before. We had never seen ourselves as separate from each other, separate from source in any way at all. Now we had this perspective of, oh, I see this, I see that. And that was a very good thing too. That was very, you know, evolving and expanding in another perspective. But then we move further and further away. And as we move further and further away from the fire, we lost some of our light. We took on some of the density of these other beings, and we took on density of some physicality. Now, prior to that, we had been able to come and go from our planet Earth back to source just at will. We could just come and go because consciousness goes everywhere and anywhere. You know, there's no such thing as time and space. But now that we'd taken on some of this physicality, some of this density, we couldn't go home. We couldn't go home. And we had to create death. That's why death was created, because it allowed us to release the physical density and then for the consciousness to go back home. And you know what? We've been trying to do that ever since.
And then
So,
got caught up in the loop of karma and the entanglements of energies, right?
and we would have to come back, and each time we came back, we would try, and that's what we would try and do, resolve any density, anything that we'd co-created that was not of purest love and light. But of course, we were stepping more and more into the human nature, and actually what we were doing was, yeah, as you say, just creating more. So it was a bit of a vicious cycle, really. And we've been doing that for millennia. You know, we've been doing that over and over again. Not, you know, some souls have come back Oh, so many times, thousands of times. Others only come now and then. Some have only been, my father, for example, has only been on Earth twice incarnated. Quite
Mm.
extraordinary. Um, so, so that's what I mean by we came here in our consciousness, our full consciousness as divine beings in our Christed consciousness. And we had no human nature at that time. Now, over all of these incarnations and lifetimes, we have acquired a deep, ingrained, entrenched pattern of humanity. We call it our human nature, and it is not our natural state of being. So, when we are Christed again, we have really released the majority, if not all, of our human nature. And that allows us to experience our God nature, our higher nature again. And so that's what my work is about. It's helping people to really peel off the human nature and step into the divine nature and understand how to navigate that, because it's like suddenly you've traded in your mini and you're in a Rolls Royce or whatever, you know, and it drives differently. You need to,
Mm.
there's no road code. So, yeah, so I'm the autopilot, if you like, whatever. Well, of course, we've all got our autopilots. We've got our guides, our incredible team. We all have, nobody's here alone, doing it alone. But it's kind of helpful to have somebody in physicality actually experiencing what they're experiencing too. And
So
so that
can
is
I
my
ask
role.
you, yeah,
Yes.
can I ask you, do you see that as what the ascended masters did, that they activated their Christ conscious, their God consciousness,
Absolutely.
self-realization, and we remembered who they
Absolutely.
truly were beyond the incarnational body
Yep.
setup?
Absolutely. Because, we all remember that we all began as divine beings. We all began as Christed beings. And so it's not something new to us, and it's not something that we have to find. It's just something that we have to allow. And as an activator, you often just through talking or through the light language or the codes that can come through, or songs, whatever, this speaks to the very soul memories of the human. It speaks to the memories held in their cells, and it helps them to remember, oh, yes, I remember I'm that divine being of light too. So that's channeled through me. And at particular times, I mean, I hold it in my field as well, but at particular times it's amplified. My team are saying, all right, here we go. This person is really ready to receive this. So by soul agreement, some channeling will come through. And just a couple of weeks ago, I was in Wanganui and I went into a mind body spirit shop to book a massage session for myself. And while I was in there, I could feel this rising that starts in my belly in my solar plexus. And I said to the person, oh, I feel like there's some sound work coming up to be shared here. Are you open to that? And they said, yeah, sure. So there I am, just standing in the shop going,
And that's called living it. Live in your Christ consciousness, your God consciousness in every moment.
yeah. So, I mean, I didn't go there with that idea
Yeah.
or that intention, but the guides saw something. Okay, these people are ready. This business is ready. They're off whatever they're offering. This is going to amp up. And they had a lot of crystals for sale, so it would have activated the crystals as well. So
Mm.
people that came and took those crystals home, they were getting the activation as well. So yeah, it's
What
very,
what
very
do you what do you feel is the most important thing for people who are awakening and moving in this transition for them to be aware of, to bring as much grace through it? Because it is this shifting from human nature to God nature. It is quite the quantum leap, I guess we could call it, or the shift of consciousness, shift of operating system, and of course the human operating system really can play havoc with the God operating system, and how to get them to work together, or if you can give any enlightenment and some awareness around that
yeah,
people, they would just be helpful. Because I think one of the biggest challenges for people is when they don't have a reference, or even for myself over the years, and then once somebody spoke it, or I got a reference, or not to take it so seriously, maybe where I was getting stuck.
yeah.
It really helps to unlock the energy.
Okay, I think maybe a key thing to remember is that we're in transition. And And transition is kind of like you've come out of a room and you've opened that door and you've come out, you've finished with what's in that room, and you close the room, and now you're in the hallway, and you can see a lot of doors in there, in the passageway, in the hallway. And sometimes we're not quite ready to open that next door. And sometimes we just need to actually lean against the door that we just came out of and look down at the ground, just rest. So it's like when you feel like you've been doing a big piece of work, and we all are, then just come out and just take a little rest before you open up another door and do another piece of work. And I think the other thing to remember too is that, my journey has evolved over 20 years, and it's really amplified in the last few years. And that's true for everybody. But I would also like to point out that really nobody has to spend 20 years getting to the place where I am now, because when I began my journey, the very matrix that we live within, and by matrix, I mean all of the energies and all of the vibrational frequencies, the patterns that make up our sacred geometry of our earth, none of that really supported what we're doing now. So for the early wave of the light workers, we were doing it in with a lot more resistance, because the earth just wasn't supporting us. It's always been there, but there was so much density from the collective that we had to sort of work our way through that. It was like walking through mud. But the big difference is now that earth is completely online, and she's completely back in alignment with her own God energy. She always has been, as I say, but we've covered it up. And Gaia responds to us. And when we take on a denser consciousness, she reflects that back to us, and the nature reflects that back to us. So we're in this wonderful position now where everything on the earth is so much lighter. It's less, it seems very complicated, but that's just an engineered kind of a thing to keep us distracted. The earth is actually not complicated. It's very simple. And it's just a matter of remembering that we're in this beautiful place now on the planet where everything that we want to do to walk home to our higher self is completely supporting us. So some of us help pave the way. We've made it easier for those to follow. And I take my hat off to all of those who are now in their 70s and 80s, who started their journeys quite a long time ago, not because they were any more advanced or any more special or anything like that, but that was just the divine plan. We have the way showers. And so the way showers have done a wonderful job. And, we're still here now as teachers, and we've all had our teachers and still have our teachers, but a lot of them aren't physically embodied. My own mentor, Tabash, I think you mentioned, is my mentor and is not physically embodied, but they're wanting to hand the mantle over to more and more of us on the earth, so that we are this new wave of the mentors and the way showers. And of course, it's not just about those in my age group, but it's our new children coming through as well, who are amazing way showers, just in the way that they say no. And we're seeing this very much in the education system at the moment. Isn't it fascinating? It's amazing. I just can't wait to see how this unfolds. But we've got a large number of children saying no to the education system. They don't say it perhaps in such elegant words, but they just, by their resistance and by not turning up, they're saying, no, we know that this is not what it's about. So if anybody's there worrying about their children failing in the school system, hurrah! They're not here to fit in. They're here to be part of the change, and they will find their own way of doing it as they're in young bodies still. So their central nervous system isn't fully matured. There's a maturing of the mind, the body, and the spirit, and then our gifts can come through very often. So a lot of these children, they really start finding themselves after they've left school in their early teens and their early adulthood. And it's just very, very exciting because they understand at a very deep level, even if they can't articulate it, they know that something very immense is going on and they're part of it. Yeah. So getting back to your question, navigating the way through this transition, rest when you need to. Know that it's part of a big, big picture. Know that you don't have to understand everything all the time. It does make sense in the end. There is method in the madness. And that, and disengage from the media that's telling you another story because that's the human nature story. We don't need to engage with that at all, and we can unplug. And yeah, the best media I find is nature. So, my tree out there is my social platform, the rivers and the mountains. They get my click.
Absolutely.
They're my click.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Yesterday I had an experience of just something online and just different fields and different stuff, and went down onto the beach and walked the dog and just did some languaging and toning that bypasses all the human complexity,
Yeah,
and shifted my frequency. And as I did, the sun came out between the clouds and everything just sparkled up, and it was just this feeling of, just as you said, like the human stuff, it feels so complicated. And then once it dropped down and shift frequency, it was like just such a simplicity of being and the joy that is so inherent in that, and the connections. And often when I'm walking through the beach, I'm like, okay, what is it I truly desire? And I'm always brought back right here, right now. This is the best. Like it's all here right now. So I'm really hearing you, like that it's just like, it is really just a little shift of frequency. And I totally agree, nature is the best channel to be plugging into.
yeah, absolutely. And the other thing for people to be aware of too is that there's a very specific soul family, a huge soul family, and they're called the Messianic family. And they're the family you'll recognize a lot of the names because they walked with Yeshua and Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary, and they they are a huge family that of souls that incarnate at pivotal times on Earth's history. And at that time when Christ, the lifetime that we recognize mostly as the Yeshua lifetime is just one of many of his lifetimes, that soul. It's Lord Sananda and Lady Nada is Mary Magdalene. But a lot of us who are possibly the more awakened, the first ones to reawaken at any time, we are the Messianic family. Now that energy has never gone away, but it becomes stronger, as just as Gaia responds to the human awakening consciousness, so does the Messianic family formula. There's no point blasting it, broadcasting it when everybody's asleep, and it's the Dark Ages 500 years ago, or there's no point. So they wait until another cycle of awakening is beginning, and then it's really amped up. So the most prevalent energy on our planet at the moment is the Messianic family energy. That's think just so if you can't think of it in any other way, think of it about the Jesus energy, the Yeshua energy, the Mary Magdalene, the Mother Mary, and all those beautiful souls that did that amazing work over 2,000 years ago. They've never gone away. They've gone and had other incarnations as well. But that formula is really present now, and it got very, very, very activated last year, and people are feeling it now. And it's often seen as a very beautiful blue energy, a bit like the energy that's associated with Archangel Michael, that sort of cobalt blue. It's that color. And so people often find that they're very drawn to buying that color or wearing that color, or they notice it. And but that's the Messianic family formula. So a formula is a whole bunch of vibrational frequencies, and they're all put together, and they make kind of like the ingredients that make up a recipe. So the Messianic family formula is a recipe of all these souls and all their different vibrational frequencies, but they hold the Christed consciousness very, very strongly. And they they work not just on this planet, but other planets as well. So they keep turning up. Oh, there's an opening over here on this planet. There's an evolutionary change, and they come. And so it's, you know, I think that's a really heartening thing for people to remember as well. We really do have this, and not to give up, because I think, you know, it's quite tempting for people at the moment to think, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore. It's too much. I don't seem to be making any progress. And the world, you know, when you look at that world, and if you're looking at the media, you're not going to see progress. It just looks horrible. So yeah, just know that that's one very small layer that we get shown a lot, but it's actually not who we are. It's not really what's happening here.
So can I ask you about the Messianic family? So do you mean that they've reincarnated and they're on the planet holding that energy of Yeshua, the Christ consciousness? Is that what you mean by
Absolutely.
that? Yeah.
So a huge, if not, I don't know if all, but no, not all, but a great, great, great many are physically reincarnated at this time. So you've got people that were Yeshua, that were Mary Magdalene, that were Mother Mary, that were Saint Germain, that were John the Baptist, that were Apostle Paul, that were Matthew. They're all here. And not just them. I mean, that's just one little group of souls that we know about. But when you think about all the ascended masters, they're all back. You know, all these
Mhm.
great teachers are back, and some will be taking high-profile roles. Others don't need to. Just by being in their community and their neighbourhood, they're doing their work there. And then we've got, you know, all those in spirit. And gosh, it's just immense. It's really immense. So yeah, ride that Messianic family wave, and I'm just okay. We've got some work coming through, some sound work coming through to support that
Okay,
in
beautiful.
our audiences. So I invite you to say, and I invite you to be open to this. I am the vibration of the Messianic family.
I
I am the
am the
vibration
vibration
of the
of the
Messianic
Messianic.
family. I
I
am the
am the
vibration
vibration
of the
of the
Messianic
Messianic
family.
family.
Naya, Heya, 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 Heya. Hey, hey, Naya, Naya, Eya, Eya. And I just feel I've got Mother Mary linking one arm and Mary Magdalene linking on the other, and you know, walking us through this.
Mm.
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 Yes. So that way of phrasing something that we wish to bring into our lives is a very direct way. Um, you know, it's no longer about I set the intention to become the vibration of the Messianic family. That's way over there. When you say I am the vibration of the Messianic family, you brought it right here, right in front of you. I'm lining up with that. And I think a lovely way, I think it was Tabash, invited me to think about energy and vibrational frequencies as a huge river that's flowing. You know when you're so close to something. Imagine if you're so close up to this huge river of water, of energies, you couldn't actually see it as anything. You don't actually see it because you're right up so close. But when you step back a bit, you can see the water, you can see the current, you can see all of these vibrational frequencies, and they're all there all of the time, always ready for us to I want that one. So I'm aligning myself with that one. Messianic family, I align with that. I am the vibration of that. So I would suggest a little exercise that I use myself, lining up with some very important vibrational frequencies to make as your daily affirmation. I am the vibration of God. I am the vibration of my higher self. I am the vibration of peace. I am the vibration of truth. I am the vibration of prosperity. I am the vibration of wellness of being in mind, body, and spirit. Oh, I really feel the energy coming through. So, kakashiri era kokoya akakashi tikiti akakoshi tikiti era kokoya. Ina na kokoshi tikiti era kokoya kakashi tikiti era kokoya atiya shitikiya. Ina na kokoshi tikiti era kokoya tikisha taka ita kokoya tikita kokoya katia. So, for those watching, repeating those affirmations and with this activation that's just followed, this is a really good, if you're not already doing something like this would be a very good starting point, and you've got some good backup energy supporting you. So I every time I think of it, I say this affirmation, particularly first thing in the morning and last thing at night, and whenever else, I've trained myself to do this affirmation constantly, because those are the things in that huge river of life that I want to align with. Now, peace is a huge one, because peace is really our way out of anything. It's our way through, it's our way up. So that, when we're at peace, we're not in resistance, and we're very open to the flow, to this beautiful universal energy that's here for us all the time. When we're in conflict, we can't access it very readily because we're not aligned. Well, I don't see conflict. Well, yes, actually, of course, there is conflict in that river. It's there because it's part of, human nature has put that there. But I'm not aligning with that one. I'm going for peace. Thank you. Nice, it's a big smorgasbord, isn't it? Life's a big smorgasbord. I'll have that one. Oh, I wrote a post recently about the sushi train going by. So the sushi tray is the energy, the river of energy constantly going around. And I'll have that one. I'll put that one on my plate. Yes, I'll have that one. Peace. Thank you very much. Yes, prosperity. Thank you. Now, prosperity is a really big energy for this year. It's like, each year we have all the energies, but we have a particular focus on different energies. Prosperity is really big this year. So, align yourself with that. I am the vibration of prosperity.
That's a good one. I mean, they're all good.
So they're the basics. And then on top of that, I have another layer going on of whatever my projects are I'm working on, whatever I want to, other things I want to manifest. So I am the vibration of successful writer. I am the vibration of inspirational speaker. I am the vibration of the sale of my property. I am the vibration of my new sanctuary. I am the vibration of rejuvenation. Did you know I was 1,000 years old?
Property?
No, I am the vibration of rejuvenation.
Oh, you're 1,000 years old.
Yeah, really, aren't we? More than that.
Timeless.
Timeless. So call it in. When you do that, you're calling in.
So one thing I've noticed that when I've claimed, even like claiming I am divine love ambassador, like what I noticed that the more I claimed and stepped into that, the more any resistant energy came to the forefront. And for a few weeks, it was very, very challenging. So much so that I felt actually stuck. I couldn't move until eventually, you know, I was able to
Yeah.
I kind of
Yes.
pop it, but you know, resolve it. It was
Yeah.
like with claiming I am the Christed light energy or the divine love ambassador, it's like
Yes.
it nearly felt like this pushback of antichrist energy or anywhere or any lifetimes or any energy within me, but even my upbringing and religion, you know, blasphemous to even consider yourself as Christ. And so a lot of that all came to the forefront. And yeah, it was quite
Mhm.
challenging. So I just want to bring that awareness to people as well, that you know, it can take
Yeah,
a little while to be gentle and kind, because that's something I'm
that's
having to
right.
learn.
That's right. So it's like it's the 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 contrast between the human nature that has been conditioned into, particularly by religion, that it's blasphemous to think of yourself as Christed in any way. And of course, you must go through the clergy, and that's what they're there for. That only the Pope and his appointed agents have direct access to God. So, that's just been heavily ingrained for 2,000 years. And then but then we have this other awareness, our divine nature, saying, well, you know that you are already Christed, you know you are God. But so, yeah, we have this playing out just as you're describing. And that's absolutely natural, and it's good because when we claim something, I am that, then the other things that must come with that is anything that's not aligned with it. And that's all it is. It's a clearing of anything that's not aligned with where you wish to be sitting and how you wish to wear yourself. And that's just part of this process of shifting out. This is the shift. We're shifting out of one way of experiencing life, shifting into another. So shifting and sifting, we are sifting through.
Yeah. So while we're talking about that, let's also share our own little personal story of. So I've been looking to get Annwyn on this podcast for a few months now, and we've been going back and forth. And then I was going through quite a challenging time with some physical stuff and definitely resistance coming up, and also wanting to keep the momentum, we'll say, with the podcasts. So I reached out to you, and do you want to share maybe what you picked up in my voice, because really talking about this alignment, and if things don't transpire, how it can be because there is that conflicting energy or pushback energy, and so again, just having compassion, I guess, for ourselves within that, and patience as
Yeah,
well as good.
yeah, yeah. So yes, yes, you had shared. Yes, we had to postpone an arranged meeting to do the podcast that we're doing now, and you shared, that you'd been going through a lot of releasing of all sorts of stuff, and a lot of it was around the religious conditioning that you've had. And of course, I'm so completely alert to that because it's a very big part of the book that I'm writing, which we might want to talk about as well.
Mm,
And and so I heard what you're saying, and you had such incredible physical pain with it too, and I
yeah.
really felt your suffering, and I was linking it to the carrying of the cross,
Mm.
you know, and I don't think I shared that with you, but that's what I got. But you had actually even stated that you had actually even said that yourself. You made in a joking reference, for God's sakes, Mum, put down the cross, and I thought you actually already have that insight, but you haven't quite embodied it yet. And so I didn't come in and do work with you around that. I just let it be because, I think it's much more empowering for us to find our own way. And I knew you would because you had already voiced it. I knew you would. I could have come and said, "Oh, let's do some work together," and I would have guided you to that. But you did it yourself, and I
Yeah,
really,
to be honest, it was a past life. I won't go into it, but it was a past
yeah,
life around the time of Yeshua, and so I've been working on putting down this cross for quite some time. And so
yeah,
again, it was just coming to the forefront,
yeah,
because this momentum, well, to step, especially since the transition of my retreat, to really step into this next phase without hiding
of course,
behind
of
hiding
course.
behind something.
Of course, that's what people are doing. And so there are now, I think so. Then when you wrote that to me and said that it was, oh, that's right. You kind of mentioned that I hadn't responded, that I hadn't offered insights. because you'd invited me to, but I hadn't. And you mentioned it, you know, in a way, don't worry, no pressure, no expectation, no, and it's fine, it's all fine. And I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, the energy is, this is absolutely not fine. She is really disappointed. There was an expectation that I would.
I wanted you to tell me to put down the cross.
Yeah, I know. And so I felt this clash, this conflict of the energies weren't aligned, you see. And so I said to you in another voicemail, I think, you know, I'm feeling that what you're writing and what you're saying is not actually aligned with what you're feeling. And you, brave soul that you are, you looked at that, you saw it, and you owned it. And then you sent me such a beautiful message, something about, I saw your deeper expression of actually being true with me, you know, truthfully saying what you saw. And that really touched my heart because, you know, I knew that you had done such beautiful work for yourself. And then you had the grace to say thank you for that, Annwyn. And look at that, you know, that's how it is.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you are moving with grace. It doesn't feel like that occasionally, but it doesn't last very long, does it?
Yeah.
And so here you are, and I see a big shift in your energies from that piece of work that you did. So well done.
Yeah, it was pretty mega. But yeah, like I just felt such gratitude for you for staying true to your alignment, because that was, you were being a reflective mirror for me in that moment of what that looks like. So, you know, of course, deep down, that's what I really desired for myself as well. And also, you know, really the awareness that, yeah, it's the energy behind the words. It's not just the words we speak, it's the energy behind the words.
It's
And
all about the vibration, vibration,
yeah,
vibration. You know, somebody can be saying, I'm just so happy, la 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 la, and you can feel the energy. Some people will see the energy. I feel it. I was like,
yeah, I felt, I was like, you are my universe right now, reflecting back to me my energy. And it's like and it was like, yeah, that's what the universe is like.
yeah.
Yeah, you know, you're
And
saying you want this, or you're saying this, but your energy is saying something else.
yeah,
And of
so
course,
you
it's going
get
to have to reflect back. It's going to have to reflect back the energy, you
yeah, and this
know.
is, you know, and this is the thing. Ultimately, we are all one big ball of energy. We're all in this together. And if you go back to the story of coming onto the planet and sitting around the fire as one unified field of pure God consciousness, that's what we really are. And then what you've just expressed was, well, you tapped back into that and felt that oneness and that wholeness, and how
And
beautiful.
then magically, it's all aligned, and here we are.
Yeah,
Hey, can you speak a little bit more about, I do want to get to your book as well, or either a bit more about the planetary activations, or the book, whichever one you feel is the next little piece.
you've got 10 minutes left. God,
We can, I mean, are you happy to go over a bit? If you're happy to go over,
absolutely,
I'm happy to go over.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yes, so we'll do the planetary activation. So so a lot of my work is done traveling around. I get asked to go to places. So like, you know, I never get to say, oh, I want to go to Fiji and have a holiday in the sun. I'm directed where to go. No, I don't go anywhere by chance or by whim. It's not Annwyn. It's my higher self saying we want you here. So, and that can be a very busy period for a time, and then there's a bit of a lull. So, about a year ago, I arrived back in New Zealand after being in Europe for 6 months, and I had been asked to go first of all to Greece, and then to Portugal, and then to England and to Jersey. So they were the main places, and each of those places had particular sacred sites that I was to go to. So you probably guess, you know, the ones in Greece was Athens, the Acropolis, Delphi, and then the Mount Olympus. And each of those places held very specific formulas, and it can either be that I'm being activated or deactivated, or the site is being activated or deactivated, or it might be upgraded. It can be any one of those combinations, and sometimes it's a bit of both. So whatever I'm doing to the site is also happening to me. So, for example, sacred sites have their cycles of power, and when they're really online, and at times they go into a rest period. And so there's been a huge number of very, very ancient sacred sites, such as at the Acropolis, that have only been emitting a certain level of vibrational frequency, because when humanity drops its frequency and its consciousness, as we do, for hundreds of years at a time, there's no point in these sacred sites burning their oil and, we're still here doing this, we're way up here, and nobody can get it. In fact, it would be uncomfortable. We wouldn't even be able to live in those places. But as we arise in our consciousness, these sites want to be reactivated again, and they want to be brought back to their original level of consciousness. So if you imagine that a lot of the sacred sites have, we could think of it as a time seal, a locked time seal. And inside are all these codes and vibrational frequencies and formulas. And then someone has to come along, a human conduit has to come along and open the seal. And what I've been doing is opening the seals and opening those codes, but then altering the vibrations so that they're still stepped down, but they're stepped down to a level so that people can still access them, but they're a lot higher than what they were. So does that make sense? So there is more, this is going to be ongoing. A lot of the sites still are not at their peak operating level yet, but they're gradually.
Yes. Is that why so many humans feel guided? Like, say, a lot of people going to Egypt now, and I know people have over the years, but all these different sites, because it's like there's so many different humans. I don't know if it's every human or just a lot of humans, but like key codes.
That's right.
That add that extra bit of energy, and that gives another.
Yeah. It's an upgrade. It's like a reboot. It's an upgrade. It opens you to more. It's another step closer home, back to your divine nature. And so people might have been to Egypt 3 years earlier, and then they suddenly have this incredible impulse to go again, and it's because there's now more energy for them available. And of course, you don't have to go to. Whatever I do in any of those parts of the world, I can do for you here right now, because I hold those. I can access them. And you can too. You can tune into places and access codes as well. But because of my nature, the way I've been, my soul has worked as an activator. There's a real strength in what is channeled through me, because I've got all of the hardware, if you like. I've got all the apps.
So when somebody's in front of you, you can bring through whatever codes or activations they need, because it's just accessible.
It will spontaneously happen. My higher self will be talking to their higher self, and then I just feel this energy coming through, and just allow it, and their soul knows it and wants it. So Athens was very interesting, because what I was told about that place was that I was realigning and activating myself with the Anunnaki.
Tell us more.
I know, because a lot of people think, well, they've read all this stuff about the Anunnaki, about reptilian energy, and oh my gosh. Obviously, I'm not working with any of that. But Lord Anu, who was the the leader of the Anunnaki, started visiting me 3 or 4 years ago, and really interesting, because where I live is Anu, like Lord Anu, or nothing's for nothing. It took me a while to twig to that. Thanks to Freddie Silver, I twigged to that. And anyway, so it was, the Anunnaki, in my understanding, were creator gods that embodied in physicality. And they were the ones that, were there in the times of Sumeria. So they were preceded the Egyptians. So this is very.
The one with the large heads?
Yeah.
I think they're represented.
They're
am I
often
right?
represented with wings, like angelic wings. And holding a little, what we call a man bag, a little purse.
Yeah.
and they're often holding like a pine cone,
Ah,
pineal cone. Yes.
yeah.
So if you looked up Sumerian gods or something
Yeah.
like that, you would see what they mightn't even call them Anunnaki because it's got such bad press,
Yeah.
but that's who they are. So that was very interesting. Then in Delphi, I was guided to, I mean, there's beautiful temples there. I think you've been to them too.
Yeah.
And then I was guided to go up into the mountains. I hired a car and went up this dreadful road and then had to walk a few more k's to find this cave, which was called, in local, it's just locally called, actually I've forgotten the name, but we often call it Pan's Cave, Pan. And
Yeah.
there I was reconnected with the oracles of Delphi.
Mm.
And I have been an oracle of Delphi many moons ago. So this is for the sound language, the light language, that sort of thing. And then in Mount Olympus, that was an amazing place to go to. That's where all the gods hang out. You know, the Greek gods of all the myths and legends. But again, they were entities who walked this earth, and they lived in a, a mystery school up in the mountain. And every so often they would, excuse me, they would come down into the village and have a look around and see who might be ready to receive their teachings. And in one particular lifetime, I was a student, and so was Tabash, or Blair
Mm.
Styra, who channels
Yeah.
Tabash, and a friend of mine who lives just around the road now, Doug. The three of us were students up in Mount Olympus all at that same time. So, you know, isn't that fascinating? It's absolutely
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, and so yes, so that's the nature of my work. But and there's lots of people doing the work that I'm doing, and we go to different places. But each and every one of us have a particular place that we will always go back to. It's our baby. It's our main piece of work. And for me, it's Glastonbury.
Mm.
Glastonbury. So that's, you know, I go to Glastonbury so much. I get called to come back again and again.
And I have a
And the
feeling
one,
this is connected into your book, right?
oh, totally. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So anyway, so a lot of the work in Glastonbury was, I find this interesting because I was activating a whole lot of pyramids. England's full of pyramids. We just think they're
Mm.
little hills, but they're
Mm.
pyramids. And a year later, I'm seeing people like Judith Kessel, who are the seers, and they're seeing activating energy throughout England. So that you see what's happened. It takes a while, and then it all gears up, and then those with sight actually see it. And so that's happening now. So I love it when I see something like that because it affirms work that often I don't know what I'm doing at the time, and I can't, you know, visibly see anything, or, you know, I just know that it's happening. So
Mm.
there's the book, the book.
Tell us about the book and the Abbey and the gist of kind of
It's,
what's.
oh my gosh, it's an hour session on its own just to talk about that. But briefly, the interesting thing about writing this book is that so many different versions of myself have written it. And each
Mm.
time a new version of me, a new upgraded version comes through, I've had to often go back and change what I've written. And in fact, about a year and a half ago, I began to completely rewrite the book. So it's a completely different book to when it began. And at the moment, I'm actually locked out of my book energetically. I can't get into my book. I can't write at the moment. And if you imagine like something out of Harry Potter, where the book has become its own life, it's alive and it can flip its own pages. And I see this big book and I see this little me being spat out, and then a lock going over the book, and it's like, keep out.
Mm. Wow.
I know that was a bit. I was like, I'm not sure what's happening. You know, I'm going to finish this book after all, and sometimes you don't because
Yeah.
it's not. It's the journey. You know, it's not really the
Mm.
goal. And but what's happening is that there's another aspect still integrating. I know who it is. It's a very old soul who's come to help me with the last part of the book.
Mm.
He's going to walk me through the last bit of the book and influence me. Actually, it's Thomas Becket, Saint Thomas Becket.
Mm.
Yeah, as a good
Mm.
Catholic girl, you know who that is. So yeah, fascinating. So I'm not writing at the moment, but I'm
Can
doing
you
other.
can you give us a little gist of what the book, the
Yes,
concept of the book, or the story, or the
the story
essence?
the storyline is about a young boy who's taken away from his home at the age of 7 to go to the Glastonbury School. So the Glastonbury School had a Glastonbury Abbey. Glastonbury, heart chakra of the planet, one of the most sacred sites, had this incredible abbey built on it, and it was used for all sorts of purposes, some good and some not so good. But they had a school there, and lots of little boys went. And so I lived most of my life. Oh, I've given it away. It was me. It's a past life. I lived most of my life as in the monastery. And long story short, I eventually became the abbot. I was the last abbot of Glastonbury at the time of the Reformation, when King Henry VIII and Thomas Cromwell were dissolving the monasteries and making that big change. So it's a story about how someone who knew the other side of spirituality. So this abbot, even from a young child, was being visited by Yeshua, and he was taught about the true teachings of Christ. He understood the Christed consciousness. He had the Christed consciousness. He was actually learning a lot through his invisible team of guides, Mary Magdalene, Yeshua, and others. And he was also working with those that had been Druids, but were now called the Gnostic Christian, or the Celtic Christians, because they weren't allowed to be Druids anymore at that time. And so he's actually becomes, placed in this position of enormous power in one of England's most wealthiest and most famous abbeys, and yet he's completely unaligned with the whole Catholic story. So that's what the storyline is about. And then the essence of it is understanding how corrupted and perverted the teachings of the church have been. And it's to help people who have, even still in this lifetime, have grown up heavily conditioned by Christian Catholic church teachings, and helping them to realize that, like as the abbot realized, even someone in that position, you can still live and be your light, even if you're in an environment where you would think that would be absolutely impossible, because, he was basically being a heretic. So we can all do this. There's a lot of parallels to now, because that also was a huge pivotal time in human evolution. It was the time of the Renaissance, and it was an amazing opportunity for human to really evolve, but it was stamped out, it was shut down, and we're in that same position 500 years later. We're in a very similar role here. So there's a lot of people who hopefully will see the parallels of what happened then and what happens now. Yeah. So that's in its ending stages, but I've got to write the last bit yet. But there is a book coming out in a month's time that I'm a part of, and it's the book that Freddie Silver has written called Portals. And people were asked to contribute a story of something really amazing that happened at a portal, and my story was one of the ones chosen. So it's a story of what happened to me at Castle Hill in 2010. And I won't tell you what that was, but the book will be coming out in a month's time. So, you'll be able to see that.
Wonderful. Can you give us a hint?
About the story? No.
You have to buy the book.
It would be a spoiler. It would be a complete spoiler.
Okay. Fair enough. And,
Freddie Silver's just been touring New Zealand, and so I think people will find the book really interesting, because he's an expert on portals and sacred sites. He's been everywhere, all over the planet, and he's very intuitive. And it'll be a great book, I think.
Actually, maybe could you just explain how you interpret a portal, just for anybody who that might be a bit unusual terminology for?
Portals are kind of like a doorway, an energy doorway or a gateway. Sometimes people call them stargates if you're cosmically aligned. But a portal to me is just a place where you can step from one reality into another. So places like Glastonbury are full of portals. You can go to the other world from Glastonbury. You can go down below the Tor to the other world. You can go to all sorts of places. And here, Castle Hill, it's like that, down in the South Island. Roger Palamu, which is very close to where I live, is like that. They are places where a lot of energy lines converge often, and they have a huge electromagnetic field that people can pick up on and have other experiences. You might have recalled memories of previous lifetimes. You might have prophetic visions, that sort of thing. So it's a gateway. It's a stepping through, a place where you can step through.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. That was a beautiful explanation. And then my thoughts went to I don't know if you've seen Matteo Stefiano, or I can't remember quite his name. He had the episode in the series in Gaia, but he says that's what he is. He's a portal
He
also.
is
So
a
then
portal. That's a great
yeah,
way. Yeah. So through
yeah,
him, he gives access to other realms.
yeah.
Yeah. So I would do it through, I would say I'm an activator of other realms because I can, yeah, bring the vibration to you.
Mhm.
Mm, interesting.
Beautiful.
Yeah, but it's all connected, all similar
Yeah,
work. So
yeah.
shall we go back to a little name thing? What's the
Absolutely. Yes. Let's close
yeah,
out with that. And then if you close out with how people can connect with you and what you're offering and all that jazz.
thank you. So um I thought we could do a little exercise together because, everything holds a vibrational frequency, absolutely everything, and including our names. And so I explained to others when they, if they call me Annwyn repeatedly, and I'm going to keep seeing them in my life, I will say, actually, I just want to share that the pronunciation is Annwyn. And the reason for that is the sound ah is very different to eh. It has a different vibrational frequency. And in the Hebrew language, the sound of ah is the sound of love. So why
Mm.
would I want to be doing myself out of that every time I hear my name? And in the Celtic tradition, Annwyn is the name of the other world. And I find that very interesting too, because this name was returned to me in 2014. And I have had it in other lifetimes. And I was fascinated because my previous name was Annette. Look, there's the Annette.
Mm.
And my surname, my maiden name, was Windle. There's the Win. So I
Mhm.
had the Anne and the Win already. Isn't it amazing?
Mm.
Talk about hidden in plain sight, but the pronunciation is Arnwin. So what I like people to do at times, what I invite people to do is to think about their name as a chant, as a invocation, as an invitation to life. And so if sometimes if I'm out in nature particularly, I will sing my name to myself. And I do it a lot when I'm visiting sacred sites and doing activations. It like calls in the energy of Anwyn. So I might make up a little something, or often it's channeled, but it might sound something like and then I thought about your name, Mary Jo. Now, your name is very interesting because surely Joe is the shortened form of Joseph.
Josephine. Josephine.
Oh, what a pity, because I had this lovely little story about you being both Mary and Joseph, the energies of the masculine and the divine, the masculine and the feminine. I thought, what a great name. Mary Jo is a really great name. You've got the Mary, you've got the Joseph. It's obviously, a blend of the two energies.
Yeah,
So
well, I've kind of thought of it because of Josephine.
Josephine is the version of Joseph, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
feminine version. So I started singing your name this morning, and it was really lovely. Mary Jo, Mary Jo, Mary Jo. So you might want to practice that, and your own
Mm.
version will come out. But I invite people to see their name as a hymn, as a sacred song, and to use it to invite energies for them, because our names are chosen. Our parents get the name somehow from spirit. It's nothing's by chance, and our names are our names. And then when they're no longer the vibrational fit, we get a different name, and as happened to me and has happened to many. So there's another vibration comes in.
Yeah, and I have heard I heard a guy, an astrologer kind of guy, talk about the impact of, yeah, somebody shifting their name and really shifting the vibration. So, but it's interesting you talk about my name because I've had trouble with my name of, yeah, how do I feel with this? So I'll definitely play around with that. And even as a kid, I was like, Joe is a boy's name. And I call my MJ and so many variations of the name. But it really, yeah, like I was called after both my grandmothers called Mary. So yeah, there's definitely an alignment there. So I feel like it is about embracing even the Mother Mary, the Mary Magdalene, the Marys, the
Absolutely.
Marians,
Hmm.
energy, and this Messianic family, light, Christed light,
Absolutely.
and allowing that to really settle, so that the name feels. And I'm actually just about to, yeah, I'm looking up lately about buying the domain finally, and really, creating the website with my actual name. So that's really helpful. I'll sing it to myself and see what
Yeah.
else is possible.
Yeah, and you might even want to, change it at times to Mary Joseph and see how that feels. Like you don't have to
Mm,
call yourself Mary Joseph, but
yeah,
if you want to embrace that idea of that sacred union of the masculine and the feminine, that would
yeah,
be a great way to do it. But it's
yeah,
there anyway.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would advice would you have to say to people if they're not really jazzing with their name?
I I would ask them to what doesn't fit, what doesn't feel right, and maybe it's even the way it's sounded, the way it's like Annwyn doesn't suit me, but Annwyn does. So
Mhm.
maybe it's even the way it's pronounced. So for example, Sandra could be Sandra. So that could be a starting point. Or sometimes people don't like a lot of things about themselves, and maybe the name is just being lumped in there with other things, which is just parts that they actually haven't brought back into love and into acceptance and peace. So
Mm.
perhaps start by making peace with your name, because we can't just chuck something out because it because we feel a bit irritated about it. It means there's something there for us to look at. And the funny thing is, the minute we make peace with it, another name comes in. So yeah,
Mm.
how about
Beautiful.
that?
So tell us, how can people find you? What have you got on offer? You're doing sessions, events,
Yes,
and the book you said in a month's time, so maybe where people can find that as well.
yes. So the website is Annwyn Vibe, and I'm doing sessions again, which can be probably going to be online because I move around a lot, and it means we can do that anywhere in the world. Which are a combination of mentoring and healing through sound work. So a lot of sound work activations usually happen. And there are some. I'm doing an event with Tabash later in the year. We're just working that out at the moment. That'll be a day workshop somewhere. I don't have any other details yet, but it's coming up. Um, and yes, I've been, for a long time, the last couple of years, traveling and integrating, and now I'm sort of emerging back out to do other work as well. So I'm planning a workshop of some sort in Raglan while I'm there. So that could be July or August, and that's going to be around living as God consciousness, and particularly looking to our new children as models of that. So, and helping people to understand how to parent new children, these very high vibrational children. That's something that I'm working on. So they will just show, excuse me, as upcoming events to be announced. But what is coming is the book, the Portal book by Freddie Silver, and then following at some stage, the Light in the Abbey. So I think a good idea is to subscribe to the website, and I don't send out much at all. You're not going to get loads of emails from me, and it's just so that you know when something happens or when something's on. I will then send a letter out then. And for new subscribers, I'm offering 20% off a discount off a session, a healing session, as a little
Beautiful.
incentive. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Excellent. So yeah, in a session, you said mentoring and some potential light language or activations. Yeah, whatever comes through.
That's
Beautiful.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely detailed and very, dovetailed, custom made, because it's my higher self talking to their higher self.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Are you doing those over Zoom or are you using something else? How do
I
you?
usually use Skype because it's immediately available to the person. It's
Right.
recorded and then it's immediately available for them to download.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wonderful. So as we close out, is there any final message, activation, anything else that wants to be shared with those who will be viewing, receiving?
I leave you in peace. I leave you in the invitation of becoming peace and being peace, holding peace. Peace is the way forward. Peace is the way up. Peace on earth. I am the vibration of peace. I am the vibration of peace. I am the vibration of peace.
Mm. And so it is. Beautiful.
No, thank you, Mary Jo. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing on this wonderful platform and it's a wonderful way of collaborating and connecting with so many others. So thank you.
Thank you for being such a beautiful Divine Love Ambassador, Christ Consciousness Activator, Planetary Activator. It's been a joy communicating, co-creating with you. So thank you so much. And I'm really grateful that this all lined up
Yeah.
beautifully and magically.